Hello everyone. This 2 weeks focus is on projects and project management. A majority of the reading will be the prescribed textbooks. And I just want to give you a really brief introduction to projects so that you know how to get the reading started and the attention that you need to pay to. So what is a project? Project is a common format in getting the work done. So it's not something new. It's been there for a long time. It is a one-off multitask job when defined starting and ending date is available. So you need to complete a number of tasks, but normally it's not ongoing and it has defined beginning time and end time. With specific scope of work to perform, an allocated budget and specific level of performance to achieve. So a good project plan should tell you what needs to be done, how much it's going to cost, the breakdown of the costs, and the quality of the work that you're supposed to complete and produce, and also the benefits is going to be achieved. And have to pay attention. There's no one model fit all for understanding the project, because projects can be complex, can be simple, can cost you only $10,000 or can cost you $1 million, like the mega size projects. So it varies. However, they all have really common features, including this clear purpose, such as the needs need to be addressed or the problems need to be solved, and the expected outcome. So what do you expect, the immediate benefits and the longer term benefits as the result of the project? And the projects in healthcare, we can see them in 4 big categories. One is to develop new service, programs, and technologies. So if we have a new model or want to develop a new service, such as cancer prevention service, or we want to try new programs, then we want to pilot the idea or pilot the design so that we can learn from the process in guiding a bigger service, ongoing service, and large-scale programs to be developed. And the introduction of technologies can also be one common way of project management, common way of using projects as a management tool. Another category is to improve service standard and quality, such as improving the management processes, introductions, or standardized process, or clinical pathway. So this is just example of improving service standard and quality. And to implement new organizational structures and systems, so the restructuring could be seen as a project with an end time, starting time, end time, and expected outcomes to measure. To upgrade facilities, install new equipment. So this could be, and also in recent years, we can see that project management has been recommended as a tool to manage research projects. Project management is also used to guide procurement processes in healthcare, and also introduction of innovative ways of doing things. So this is a new trend of project management in healthcare. So project management, in fact, is about change. It's about introducing change, such as improving the way we do things, streamlining the responsibility, and flattering, simplifying the management processes and structures, and pilot testing innovative ways of producing better health outcomes, implementing new interventions or trialing new interventions. So this is about change. Soon after the introduction of new things, and change management processes should follow so that we can sustain the benefit of the project. And project management is about matching the solutions to the problems. So it's about using certain ways, following certain processes to solve the problems that you already identified in your needs analysis. Key dimension of project that includes 3 elements. One is the time, one is the budget, one is the quality. If the time, within the limitation of time, within the limitation of budget, and the quality has been defined. So if a project only allowed to last for 1 year, and if you could improve the budget, that means you could do more things and you could take more resources to improve the quality of the work that you've done. So when changing one element, the other elements will be impacted as well. So this is called project triangle. This is the typical project framework, not just used in healthcare, it's used in general project management literature. It tells you the different phases of project and project management. It looks like a linear process, in fact it's not. So because projects, as said, project is actually testing new ideas, trialing new interventions, and projects is about introducing changes. So a lot of time we're doing things that we probably haven't done before. So therefore, we need to allow changes to take place. So we may not put a plan together that exactly allow us to go as planned. So we allow ourselves to review, monitor, and to replan and modify the initial plans to allow the successful progression of the work. So project management is not a linear process. It should be a cycle. We call that project cycle. However, in general, it does go through different processes, including initiation. That's why when you started to think about the idea of what's needed, so such as identifying and confirming the need, estimating costs and benefits and risk, and prioritizing the projects and project solutions, and also selecting potential sponsors and leadership. Then you go through to the when the project becoming clearer and giving you the confidence that it's feasible to be implemented, and you go into a preparation stage. That's where you're starting to carefully scope your project and to design a project plan, includes all key elements that the project should consider. In addition to what goes into the project plan, you should also need to identify what are the key stakeholders. The project's key stakeholders, including the divisions or management level or specific positions that will be impacted by your project or should be involved in the project. And the end user for the project, they are your key stakeholders. The funding bodies and also similar organizations providing services to the target population that you're serving. So they may be someone that you should work with and consult with. So they are all key stakeholders. And this including have a detailed understanding or breakdown of the tasks, sequence of the tasks to be completed within the project, and the length of the project, estimation of requirement of resources, and a breakdown of the resource requirements. So this is where you started to prepare the implementation of the project. So the project plan together with the detailed project evaluation plan should be ready, and at that time then you should also get ready to have the project plan signed off. Then you move on to implementation stage. So during the implementation, basically you're doing what you're supposed to do for the projects. All activities that defined in your project plan need to be completed in sequence. However, you need to closely monitor how it goes and how well that you have completed each of the tasks, and in what quality are they in the defined qualities, because it's what you do eventually produce the immediate and long-term benefits. So track and control become really vital during the project implementation stages. And also according to the evaluation plan that you developed during the planning process, you need to start collecting relevant data as indicated in the evaluation plan, so that you have adequate timely data to provide you with the information that's required to know. For example, you might need to know maybe some of the tasks need to be completed before other tasks to commence. So you need to have that data and information to tell you, yes, we are ready to move on the second stage. And sometimes the project funding come as instruments. So you do have different level of deliverables that you need to demonstrate. So without collecting those data, you are unlikely be able to successfully demonstrate those deliverables that will impact on the instruments of funds that you may receive from the funding bodies for the projects. So you need to fulfill the reporting requirements, including ongoing reports to the team, ongoing reports to the organization, and also reports as predefined and agreed with by the funding body. So this is all the details that you should pay attention to, and they all discuss clearly in the prescribed textbooks. And during the implementation process, and this is the process, you will collecting all the data, and once the project has been completed, some of the data may be ready prior to that to be analyzed. Some data may not be analyzed until the project activities have been completed. So therefore, that is the time to analyze all the evaluation data to generate answers to the evaluation questions. When the all project activities have been completed, evaluation reports have been generated, and the project team has celebrated the success, and the team is dismissed. Before that happens, we still have a number of things to do, including fulfilling the funding body's requirements, the reporting requirements that need to be met, important documentation needs to be filed according to the agreements with the funding body, according to the organization policies, including assessing the overall project performance, in addition to what the project produced, in order to solve the problems and address the needs as identified. Project itself should have its own learning. Maybe this is the first time for the organization have ever managed a project in such scale and in such impact and complexity. So this project process is really a learning process to the organizations. So we also ask important questions like, have we encountered any barriers and difficulties? How did we overcome them? And to what extent we have overcome this? If we could do it again, what changes do we think that we will make in the initial planning process? Any learning that can be used and applied to guide the future project design. So this is really an important time in the closing period to reflect on what we have learned and to inform future practices. So throughout the process, we also need to follow the risk management plan, and we also need to manage our sponsors and stakeholders' interest and keep them involved, keep their interest, and also keep them fully informed, and make sure the communications are effective throughout the organization, throughout the project team, and between the project team and the key stakeholders. So this is how we understand the project framework. During the preparation process or even the initiation process, we need to complete a really important step, is to scope the project. We call that informal feasibility study, to understand whether the project is feasible for us to implement. We ask whether the project is feasible, whether the project's value, to meet the value of the organization, can we provide the financial resources that's required, and do we have the technological and social support in order to implement the project? Do we have the skills that's required? And do we have the skills to manage this complexity of the project teams and team structures? Is the benefit worth the costs? Now healthcare is a financial constraint, working in a kind of financially constrained environment. So this is the question we always ask. Do we worth the funding? And are we going to produce benefits worth the cost, even outweigh the costs? So will this project help us to achieve our organization's goals? If the answer is no, then the chance of getting support from the organization becomes unlikely. And is the project likely attract sponsors? So if the answer is no, then there's no point to move it forward if there's no funding available or there's no sponsors to support the project. Will this project contribute to improving the service to the patients or users? We always keep in mind that the reason that we're doing projects in healthcare is because we want to produce better benefits to the patients and users of a service delivery, directly or indirectly. And don't forget that it's a really important project doesn't sit alone. It impacts on others, it involves others, and in also being influenced by others. So key stakeholder consultation is extremely important at the beginning and throughout the project implementation process. So the key stakeholder generally can include the sponsors who provide support and financial resources to the project team, or also those auspicious projects, such as if the project sit in the organization, then the organization is the one the one that auspices the project, and the project team are the key personnel, individuals or groups or organizations who will be affected by the project, individuals or groups or organizations who hold direct influence over the project, professional bodies, and other government and non-government departments. They all can be the key stakeholders that we need to consult. And sometimes the local media as well, depending on the complexity and sensitivity of the project itself. When we prepare a project plan, when we prepare an implementation plan for the project, we need to keep in mind our planning needs to be effective, which we will take into consideration of all key factors, so that we are not going to revise a plan again and again throughout the process. Sometimes we can't avoid it, but at least some factors that might impact on the project, we need to take them into consideration during the planning process. So firstly, we plan to plan. We likely, for a large project, will have a planning process, so preparation will be required. And make sure the people who must implement the plan participate in the implementation of the plan, so that you would not spend so much time after the project has started to debrief and to facilitate the learning among the people who's involved in the project. So get them ready prior. And be prepared to replan. So if we encounter difficulties, or if we're not satisfied with certain components of the plan because of inexperience that we had during the initial planning process, so then be prepared to replan. It's better to spend the time and efforts before the project started rather than wait until it's already implemented. Then we have to put everything on hold. Then that could be a really costly decision to make. Conduct a risk analysis to identify any risk factors and any potential barriers, so then we can develop relevant strategies in addressing them. To anticipate the obstacles that might likely occur, develop plan B just in case plan A doesn't work. So we always think this is the way we do things, but sometimes things do happen. So if the key elements that we can't get to it, or we do encounter barriers that we cannot overcome, are there any other ways that we can still progress the project using different methods? And we need to define the problems clearly, so we know what the problems we're trying to solve, so that we can clearly define what are the expected benefits of the project. Develop a problem statement, clearly stating what the problem is. all actions within the plan should be aiming at achieving a result, solve the problem identified. So this is something you need to bear in mind when you introduce strategies, when you develop objectives to define all the immediate changes and benefits, and you propose strategies and design all key activities. Keep in mind, ask yourself, any of these steps that you do, are they directly relevant or at least indirectly relevant to solving the problems? Sometimes it's not more is better than. Sometimes more is more. Less is more. So it's not saying that you do more. That means it's better, because we don't have unlimited resources to spend. So we have to make sure we do things more effectively and also efficiently. Use the work breakdown structure to divide the work into small chunks. Then develop accurate estimates for duration, cost, and source requirements. So in the prescribed textbook, there's in the chapter business case and tools, that chapter, it has detailed explanation of work breakdown structure. So read it carefully to get some guidance on how to go about. So when planning before you plan a project, this is the question you need to answer. Then eventually, it should be incorporated into your project plan. What must be done? How should it be done? So in what way you get it done? Who will do it? So all the tasks should have detailed responsibilities. Who will be the leading, taking the responsibility? Who will be involved? By when must it be done? How much will it cost? And how good does it have to be? So we need to also define the quality of the work we do as well. Are goals and objectives realistic and relevant? Are planned resources available? Are there adequate control systems? So do we have tools, methods, and do we have procedures and protocols in place to monitor and to control the quality? Is there an effective information system so that we can collect and share data and information effectively? Were all key stakeholders involved in the planning process? Was planning completed before implementation? And were adequate planning tools used? Very importantly, have we got support from senior management? So these are all the important questions that we need to ask. And make sure you check every single question before you start the formal planning and project plan development process, at least before the implementation of the project. So this is just a guide of what the detailed project plan should include. Okay, so that's including problem statement, the overall purposes of the project, and the detailed aims, objectives, and strategies. The work breakdown structure that details the tasks, activities, and sequence and level tasks and activities. And a detailed scheduling, including the sequence of tasks and timeline. Responsible person and people need to be involved in the task. What are the monitoring and quality control mechanisms? And the key evaluation approaches and methods to be used to conduct the evaluation, any risk analysis results and contingency plans that developed, what are the project key personnel, including, if it's a really specialized positions, then including education and experience requirements, the clear team structure so that it's clear who reports to whom. What are the project required resources and the breakdown of the resources, the project management structure and how it sits within the organizational structure, who are the major contributors, including financially and or other level support, what are the detailed budget and allocation, including expected expenses and income, key deliverables and timelines and funding, and what are the communication and reporting requirements. So when we plan the project and when we implement the project, we do need to keep in mind the funding opportunities and requirements, and presence of key power groups, whether they will influence on the project implementation, and the impact of idealism and commitment to board social goals. So is this something that is feasible to do? Is it something that we have taken into consideration of the limitation we have? And it is something is going to contribute to the direction of the organization, or to contribute to social and health well-being of the population. When you consider organizational strategic direction and the leadership, availability, leadership style, the structure and culture of the organization that will influence the team and project team, and what are the management practices within the organization. So who are involved in the project decision-making process? That's including the project sponsor funding bodies, project leader and manager, project team members, and other key stakeholders, and the advisory committee. So please keep in mind to work with and at the same time manage the stakeholders in the process of planning implementation to the project is not easy, because they have different philosophy, may have different work philosophy, and they look at things from different perspectives and with different opinions as well. How to balance that perspective and opinions, that will be a challenge to project managers and to project team. Key stakeholders can bring expertise and constructive suggestions and fresh opinions to the project team. However, they can also steal your projects. So depending, sometimes someone's voice is louder than the others. So your project might be hijacked. So make sure you have a problem statement clearly defined, then expected outcomes are clearly defined, and proposed strategies are clearly written, so that you know the discussion will be held around what, so you won't lose the direction. To work with key stakeholders, you need to keep them well informed, and they join as advisory roles rather than leadership and management roles. You listen to all of them, not one, and you consider the opinion with clear purpose and judgment. Provide regular update on project outcomes achievements. You will find keeping stakeholders engaged and keeping their interests are challenging. So you make sure you provide them with good news, provide them with realistic expectation, and provide them with regular updates, so that you can keep them interested in knowing what will be the next step and what achievements that you are likely to achieve in the near future. Be well prepared for meetings and forums. So you have the agenda prepared, all attachments prepared before the meetings, and also before the public forums. You need to be prepared who will be coming, likely the question will be asked, so you have some anticipation of what you may experience, so that you well prepare yourself. And predict stakeholders' behavior at meetings. Evaluate the probable stakeholders' response to major project decisions. So this is how you work with key stakeholders, and to keep them keep them interested in your project, and also keep them actively providing input and constructive feedback to your project, so that the project qualities can be maintained and you get the most valuable advice and experience from them. So to work with the key stakeholders, you need to have the specific skills in facilitating key stakeholders meetings. If you do not have that experience, maybe get someone to facilitate the process. And you need to have strong leadership skills and evidence-based decision-making skills. Very importantly, you need to make the terms of reference for advisory committee really clearly, so they understand the roles are not making management decisions, but providing advice. And also need to protect sensitive project information. So you need to check the funding body requirements and the requirements of the organization, what can be shared and what can't be shared. And also with ethical consideration as well. Thank you for listening.